We should not add gypsum?
No, gypsum's a total waste of time here. You hear about people telling you gypsum will soften your soil. Gypsum does absolutely nothing in soils where our positive ion is calcium, and all of our soils are full of calcium. When you go somewhere that they have sodium as the positive ion in the soil, be it along the Texas coast, be it in Houston, or be it on the East Coast, then gypsum works perfectly. But gypsum is like pouring chalk on the ground. You get zero from gypsum. He's exactly right about that. Yes, sir.
I've got a problem with blight. I live in South Furious, and I've had problems with blight.
Okay.
And I just wondered what you recommend to.
Okay. Let me get to that in just one second. Early blight is a fungus disease, hits the base of tomatoes, and you get yellowing that starts from the bottom and works up. Yes, ma'am.
Bob, for those of us who haven't done anything for the last 6 weeks or so in our bed, and we want to plant tomatoes and peppers, so do we go with the Epsom salt,
Yeah.
rock phosphate, all
Make a
fertilizer,
little depression and put it down in.
all of that?
All that. Water it real good. Wait 24 hours and then dig your hole. Put your soft phosphate in the bottom and plant your tomato plant on top of it.
Okay.
Okay.
You mentioned potassium.
Uh-huh.
What is a good source of that? And
Wood
what
ashes.
A tree.
Anybody that has a fireplace?
Okay. Would the lava sand do the same thing?
No.
Okay.
No. And it's, you know, your basic fertilizers have a fair amount of potassium in them, and it may be all you need. But if you want to make things a little sweeter and be sure you've got plenty, just a tablespoon or so of wood ashes is probably what you need. Drive around your neighborhood, find a house with a chimney. They're probably trying to find something to do with their ashes. They're probably built up in the fireplace. You know, just go and tell them you bring them 5 pounds of tomatoes if you let you have a little bit of ash.
That's the real ash, not the clumps of wood that didn't burn.
Right, that's the ash that's burned down to nothing. And I trust you're not burning artificial wood or, you know, these pressed fire logs and all that kind of crap. Just good old wood. And not out of your barbecue pit unless you're burning the natural charcoal like you get at Whole Foods. None of these briquettes. Yes, sir.
Bob, back to the question she had about getting Bermuda grass. Putting in a new garden, raised bed, how do you get rid of
You
this?
start 6 months in advance, unfortunately. And I'm going to do this on the back part of my garden, because the back part of my garden, I've just got too much Bermuda moved in the, you know, in the wet weather. The only way that I've really effectively found to kill Bermuda grass out as a one-shot thing is to do what we call solarizing it. Mow it off as low as you can to the ground. Go buy yourself a roll of plastic. I don't care whether it's black plastic or clear plastic. Roll it out over there, weight down the edges so that it doesn't, you know, blow away. And boy, the sun hits that, and underneath that plastic, it's going to go about 180 degrees. It's going to be the same thing as your car closed up on a parking lot on a hot afternoon, and hopefully you don't have any plants in there. If you have Bermuda grass, and that's what you want to happen underneath your plastic. It will, by the way, take care of any insect problems, although I don't deal with many insect problems. But that, you're literally frying the Bermuda grass, or pressure cooking it, steaming it, whatever. And that's the only way that I effectively know of to really get rid of Bermuda grass.
How long?
And I'd say a month of sunny weather, and the longer the better. Now, sure, we've killed the soil. We've run the earthworms out. We've killed the microbial life in the soil, everything else. We're going to put that back in with compost or compost tea. We can restore that in a hurry. But otherwise, you're going to be fighting Bermuda grass. I do have Bermuda grass from other places in my garden. So what I do is use that orange oil vinegar mix, what I call organic Roundup. Works just as well as Roundup without the cancer implications and everything else. A gallon of strong vinegar, 2 ounces of orange oil, and a squirt of dish soap. Works exactly like Roundup, only kills stuff in about 10 minutes.
Can you say that again?
1 gallon of strong vinegar, 2 ounces, or 2 jiggers as I prefer to think of it sometimes, 2 ounces of orange oil, and just a squirt of dish soap. And
White
this-
vinegar? White vinegar?
Yeah. Yeah. And pickling vinegar if you're buying it at the grocery store, 20% vinegar if you're buying it up front here. You know, with things like Bermuda grass or Johnson grass or really tough woody stuff, you will not kill it with one application. But you're not going to kill it with one application of Roundup. Back before I got smart and used Roundup, I had to spray 4, 5, 6 times before the Roundup would kill the Bermuda grass out. It's simply a lie that they tell you how it kills tough rhizome Johnson grass. Yeah, short of nuclear weapons, I haven't found anything that does that on the first time around. But, and I haven't tried those yet. I haven't found a good source. But where you want to use a non-selective herbicide that in effect kills all the vegetation, orange oil and vinegar will do it. And if you're spraying a small area, treating a small area, you can either spray it on, you can wipe it on with a sponge. The only precaution that I will tell you is do not leave it in your sprayer. It will eat the seals out of your sprayer. But that goes for anything else. Rinse your sprayer after you've used it and flush some clear water through it. Hey, Bermuda grass is a problem. Yes?
I tried something this year and I don't know, I prepared 4 inches of compost with all of the Medina granular and the green sand and everything. Then I covered it with black plastic. Did I kill all of the compost?
Yeah. You killed off all except the highly thermophilic bacteria. They're bacteria that live at 20 below zero. We call them psychrophilic. They're bacteria that grow at medium temperature. We call mesophilic. They're bacteria that live literally, in almost 200-degree areas, and those are the thermophilic. You want a good balance. The good news is you can put it back with compost tea in a hurry. Yes, ma'am.
Will the orange oil and vinegar kill bamboo?
It will kill the foliage, but again, it will take several applications. Okay, just a couple of other things about tomatoes. You may have problems with tomato hornworms. They're the big old long cigar-like things that scare you half to death with that big spike on one end. They can't stab you or hurt you in any way. They kind of like I had an aunt once that said every snake in the world is dangerous because she's liable to hurt herself trying to get away from it. People that have been injured by hornworms or when they were startled by them and they fell backwards into the cactus patch or the blackberries. Yeah, you don't want to follow the blackberries in the garden. That's a bad thing. But if you have a problem with caterpillars of any sort in the garden, BT worm killer, this is germ warfare. This is the bacteria that will kill caterpillars very, very effectively. And if you want to make this even more effective, add a little bit of molasses to it. Mix it according to the directions and then put a tablespoon or two of molasses in with it. The molasses, we said, is a strong microbial stimulant. Makes this stuff about 20 times more effective. I've tried to get Green Light to put that on the label. They keep saying they will, but they haven't done it yet. How effective is this? And how effective is the molasses? Well, I mentioned that I spray with seaweed molasses in the vegetable garden, and a very interesting thing happened to me several years ago. My tomatoes were up about so tall, and I was spraying them about every 2 weeks with seaweed molasses. And when a caterpillar, I didn't even know I had some caterpillars out there, but when a caterpillar dies of BT poisoning, it's not a pretty sight. But if you know what you're looking at, you'll know what's killing the caterpillars. And I went out and I had a couple of big hormone worms out there that were dying of BT poisoning, only I hadn't sprayed any BT. So guess what was happening? Either there was enough natural BT around, or maybe the grower had sprayed some of it when the tomato plants were, I'm trying to hold things up where everybody outside can see, when the plants are little like this, and just by continuing my spraying with molasses, I was keeping enough BT on those leaves that every caterpillar that tried to eat on it died. So, caterpillars should not be a problem in your garden. Red spider mite, yes, red spider mite is not an insect, but spider mites can be devastating to a number of kinds of plants, including tomato plants. The liquid seaweed is what will totally prevent spider mites, even on marigolds. And don't get me started on marigolds in the garden, that's a waste of time. But anyway, if you want to stop spider mites, spray every couple of weeks with liquid seaweed and you will not have spider mites. That's one of the few things that I was able to teach Malcolm Beck. My business partner, Roberta, and I were at a seminar up in Dallas one time, and this lady was saying, hey, I found out how to grow marigolds in the summer without spider mites. I spray with liquid seaweed. Well, I came back and told Malcolm, and he, of course, said, I don't know if I believe that, I'll try it. So he went out and found a couple old tomato plants that were just eaten up with spider mite. He sprayed them, and he called me a couple of weeks later and said,